The other day, more like a week ago, I finally completed Dying Light 2's story, with nearly 50 hours put into that one save, and by the time the credits rolled, I truly wasn't too sure how to feel. The 2019 demo mission was almost entirely different, the pace in the story went to hyperspeed in those last few missions, and as the game was wrapping up, I started to feel kind of empty, as it really made me question the whole journey itself. Now time to explain before people get mad like they usually do. I really did love the first half of the game with the murder mystery plot about the death of Commander Lucas, as it made me question who I could trust and what their newfound motives really were, as we didn't really know any of these characters. Once we reached the halfway point of the game where we're now in the central loop, it by then ditches every relationship we took the time to have made besides Hakon, I guess, who occasionally appears for a fight or two and depending on your choices, may pop up in the background of a few cutscenes. Now, before I continue, this video is going to be pretty disjointed, I'm going to be skipping around a lot, so just keep that in mind. Besides maybe Frank, Hakon, and Lawan, all these characters in the game feel pretty undercooked, even though there's a ton of dialogue. Most of the characters just never really get their chance to shine and be unique outside of some story cutscenes. And even though some are highlighted more, they never really get the development they probably should get. Like Waltz, who's a main antagonist and plays a very similar role to how Rise is in the first game, where he rarely appears until the end. What I loved about the beginning of the game was you got to roam the city with Hakon, run from virals, explore a hospital. It all felt really cool, like he was actually involved in your personal journey. I feel like after the VNC Tower mission, known as Broadcast, where you get the grapple hook, that's where things really started to fall flat, for me. And let me be clear, if you enjoyed the story, awesome! I'm really glad you got more out of it, but honestly, for me it left a lot to be desired. Like it was kind of rushed towards that later half. Now, seriously, I wasn't expecting some world-changing story or anything that was going to blow my mind, but I feel like the Dying Light universe has a lot of lore that could be explored, like sentient volatiles. What was the reason they set that up in the following if they're never gonna do anything with it, right? Though I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw a sentient volatile faction in a DLC. There's a lot of possibilities and 2 story DLCs confirmed, so not everything's off the table yet. In the middle of the story, you're introduced to the infected abilities that really made me go fucking crazy the first time, because it's one of those things I've theorized about for a long time now, and it's similar to what Crane did in the following DLC, once he drank the blue GRE liquid, if that was even canon. And that's a whole nother thing, we still truly don't even know what ending in the following is even canon. It's all a guessing game, but that's a whole different topic to talk about. So, they introduced the infection abilities that only really make an appearance in the story. Outside of that, they never really do anything with it. And for how crazy Aiden and Waltz get at the end, I feel like it was a missed opportunity. Some people were hoping for an infected skill tree gameplay similar to Prototype where you're an unstoppable monster, that I feel like could be something you could trigger like a rage mode similar to what you can see in God of War. These really were just my personal expectations built up because of what the devs said back in 2019. But as we all know now, a ton of things have changed. But at one point in the game's development, whenever your infection meter got low, you actually got those superhuman abilities to be able to kind of advance your playstyle. They were close to greatness there, it's just they didn't commit all the way. And instead left things open for most likely DLC, but we'll get there. Now, back to the reason why I think these multiple endings felt rushed. Every ending before the final cinematic plays out in one of 2 ways. You escape with Mia, or you escape with Lawan. Going with Mia is technically the right choice since if you kept Hakon alive, Lawan will be saved by him before the bombs go off. This leads to a few cinematic endings that all play out very similarly. You see a slideshow cutscene of whatever faction you let take over, being rather the Peacekeepers, Survivors, or the Renegades, which the Renegades only let you side with them in the last 10% of the game. Then after the slideshow, you get a black screen where you get exposition depending on who was alive, and honestly, this is a really poor way to do this. Because learning that Lawan or Hakon is still alive after that dramatic moment through some white text really took away from that moment for me. I really do think if they tried to convey this scene in any other way, it would have been better and probably way more satisfying than just a black screen with white text. Also, I kind of find it funny that no matter what ending you get, you still see Aiden turn and smirk at the city. So rather if the city gets blown up by missiles or living a treacherous life through the Renegades, Aiden has a big ol' smirk. One of the main things that I think made this journey truly pointless was the death of Mia, which happens no matter what you do. You're told Aiden buried her under a tree or got a few hours to rest with her, but we never see any of that, so it's hard to really feel like things were resolved. Then Aiden just walks off, with us being told he's leaving the city because of the drug, or also called inhibitors, that were making him more mutated. And that is it. That is Aiden Caldwell's story. He goes to a city looking for the girl he thinks is his sister, which is actually not, and is the daughter of the man chasing you down the whole game, and who also wants to drop missiles on the city. And this girl you're looking for ends up dying regardless, probably to set up story DLCs. And also, Mia gets around 10 lines of dialogue across the whole game. So at points for me personally, it was hard to care for Aiden's motivation since the game didn't really do enough to make me want to care. So by the end, yeah, Aiden found his goal and realized he was an insane monster and couldn't save Mia anyways, and now walks off into the sunset, leaving everyone and everything behind like a pilgrim seems to do. And yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts about the main story. I feel like there were some really strong moments that I didn't really go into detail about because I kind of wanted to put more of a focus on the things that I hope get improved in the DLC. I just feel like the DLCs are the way to finalize Aiden's story, since the main game, no matter what ending you technically get, ends the same, with Aiden walking off as we're told through exposition the things with Mia and so on. I don't hate Dying Light 2's story at all, actually. I think there's some moments that really blew me away, but I just felt like some plots didn't really go anywhere or needed more time to develop. But don't get me wrong, it's still way better than Dying Light's story. Well, I guess that isn't saying much though. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. That's pretty much all I had to say for today. I have a feeling if Techland fixes a lot of the major bugs, there's a very bright future for this game. I just think there's more things that need to be tweaked. More that I'll talk about in its own video, because I have a lot to say about that as well. So anyways, if you want to, then feel free to like this video, subscribe if you want, and be sure to stop by next time, folks. Peace.
What? Are you out of your mind? Text! I get a fucking text and then fucking send it and get